Hello, you beautiful legends, and welcome to another episode of Ben and Joel Reviews. I'm Ben.
And I'm Joel.
And this is the podcast where we discuss movies, TV shows, and theatre.
And whatever else we want.
So please, sit back, relax, and let's dive in. Commissioner Pearson.
What is it, Batman?
It's the sound of my enemies fearing for their lives.
Oh my god.
Fearing for their lives as I sit down to review my movie.
Oh, you're reviewing your own movie?
That's right.
Look, last week it was Keith Lemon.
Dear God, how did you survive?
I don't know. So, hello, welcome. Ben's not here today, but I'm joined by Batman.
That's right. I can't keep this voice on its in my throat.
No. You'd need some Lemsip or
yeah.
What are the little lozenges called? Strepsils.
Strepsils, that's it, yeah.
I bet Christian Bale went through a lot of those.
Probably.
I bet he was the reason their sales went up. Single-handedly did it. Well done.
Oh, dear.
You've contributed to Big Pharma. So, as you may have guessed, this week, what are we reviewing, Ben?
We are going to be reviewing Batman Begins, which came out in 2005 and was directed by Christopher Nolan.
Yeah, two white men doing this again.
What do you mean again? It's never been done before.
We are so original.
We are the first people to ever do this.
Yes, no one's ever. No, it's so niche. No one ever talks about it.
Of course.
No, but it felt right. Like, we are both big Batman fans.
Yes.
Just in general. And so when we just talking about the podcast, one of the first things we suggested was doing Batman stuff. The Nolan trilogy seems like a perfect place to start.
Yeah.
Do you have any kind of preamble?
I remember when the film first came out, back in 2005, and my dad took me to the cinema to see it. And I remember at the time, I was a little confused about the chronology.
Okay.
So I thought the film was a sequel to Batman and Robin.
See, I had something similar. I thought it was a continuation, but I thought it was a prequel to the Tim Burton stuff and the Schumacher stuff. And I thought it was going to tie in, and boy was I surprised when it didn't.
Yeah.
So my experience with this particular film is a little bit backwards.
Okay.
I do not remember seeing it advertised anywhere growing up.
Mm-hmm.
I do not remember seeing it in a cinema, not even any trailers in a cinema. I didn't know it existed until I was round at a friend's house as a kid, and it had just come out on DVD in like 2006. And they're like, "Oh, do you want to stay to watch?" I was like, "Yeah, okay." And they said, "Oh, it's a Batman thing." And I'm like, "A Batman thing? Really?"
Yeah.
So I sat down to watch it, and I think I mentioned this to you before we recorded earlier on. So I obviously knew nothing of it. I didn't even see a trailer until after I'd seen it. And obviously I expected it to be like more in line with the Schumacher stuff. And genuinely, until the name Bruce Wayne was uttered, which I think is in this, like, it's still pretty early on, but it's like a good, like, 5 minutes in, maybe more. I was genuinely sat there thinking, they've put the wrong disc in. It's not the right film. This isn't Batman. And genuinely thought it was the wrong film. Then I, figured it out, got into it. But obviously, because it's an origin story, Batman in his full glory doesn't appear until quite a ways in to the film.
Yeah.
And just at the moment where you first see him for the first time, my phone rang and my mum was like, "Time to come home, darling, it's time for tea." And I had to leave. So I finally got to Batman, and then I had to go.
Oh.
And it was not for like another 3 or 4 months before I actually got to see the film again and watch it in full.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Well, I do remember seeing, I don't think I saw a trailer, but I remember seeing the poster. I think it was on a massive billboard. And then, as I say, my dad took me to the cinema to see it, and I absolutely loved it from start to finish. But I was still confused about the chronology. Am I saying that right? Chronology?
I think so.
And I was saying to my dad, I was like, but wait, isn't this... So is this after Batman and Robin? And my dad was like, no, this is a completely separate thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay.
You
And
you had this conversation after watching the film. It's so tonally different, and you still had to ask.
No, it wasn't after.
Okay. I was going to say.
So after seeing the film, I said, wait, Batman and Robin, he's already Batman. Why is it called Batman Begins? Doesn't make any sense. Dad's just there like, shut the f*** up, Ben.
He does that anyway.
And yeah.
As soon as you open your mouth.
Yeah. So we just rewatched the film.
Yes.
When was the last time you saw it?
Ooh, we're going I was going to say we're going a ways back, but probably not actually. So I assume you were much the same, that you have sort of comfort films that you've seen many times over, and you kind of stick them on because they're predictable and easy to watch.
Yes.
The Nolan trilogy is some of my comfort films. Like I've seen them enough, not like loads and loads and loads, but like enough so that if I just kind of want something on in the background that I can kind of tune in and out of, or I watch them when I'm sick, I think, as well. When I want to watch something good, but something I know, that's something I'll put on. So maybe like a year ago, maybe more, something like that. That sounds about right.
Yeah, I think it's been might have been the same amount for me, maybe a little bit longer. But upon rewatching it, I suppose I was a little scared, which is in tone with the film we're reviewing.
It's all about fear.
It's all about fear. Because as I'm sat there watching the film, genuinely enjoying it, I wasn't taking many notes.
No, I noticed that. So, typically speaking, Ben is the very meticulous note taker, and I kind of word vomit a few bits.
I think you're the meticulous note taker, and I'm the one who just vomits.
Oh my God, don't look up to me in that respect. God, I'm so disorganised. But the tables seem to have turned. Oh, how the turns have tabled. I've got loads.
Yeah, I've got a fair amount.
But the thing is, I feel like this is a film that we've seen enough where we can comment on it fairly confidently without having many notes anyway.
Yes.
And with that, shall we, like Batman,
begin?
Yes.
So, the very first shot, well, we get the company logos, DC, Warner Brothers and whatnot.
With that... like the music.
It's... there's quite a few things I want to say about the score, but I'm going to wait.
Yes.
The very first shot it's the orange sky. And it's just the army of bats that are flying by.
The army of bats.
And as they're flying by, it forms the shape of the Batman symbol.
Did they train them to do that? Nolan likes doing things practically.
For God's sake, can we get control of these bats?
Or they were just like taxidermied ones on a string.
Christian! Stop making love to that bat! I'm a method actor! I'm not Christian Bale! I'm Batman! Oh my God. So
continue.
It's a great sort of way to start the film. And I remember when I was sat in the cinema, when I saw the bats and the bat symbol, I remember just sat there. I was like 9 at the time. And I just remember sitting there thinking, that is so cool. And the bats black out and the scene transitions into a child version of Bruce Wayne, chasing after a child version of Rachel Dawes, who is the love interest of the film.
Rachel!
Rachel!
So, every time you say Rachel, I'm probably going to have to be stifling a laugh, because, as Ben pointed out, when we hit this moment, there's a particular meme that we'll mention when we hit this point in the film. That just, oh my God, I can picture it so vividly in my head, the actual meme itself. Chef's kiss.
So he's chasing after her because she's got something. And what is it? He's like, she's like, finders keepers, I found it. And he's like, yeah, in my garden. And what is it? It's like...
It's a rock.
Yeah, and it's almost like it's in the shape of...
It's like a dagger. Or
kind
like
of, yeah. See, I was thinking it was like the shape of the tip... the shape of a tip of a trident.
Yeah, that works.
It makes sense. DC, Aquaman.
Oh my god, they were building something.
It's all connected.
Funny you mentioned that, because I think maybe there was talk when they did Man of Steel that they were considering folding the Nolan stuff in, but then they didn't do it because Chris Nolan was like, "No, you're not."
No.
Fair.
Yeah.
I
Which is
respect
interesting because
him.
Nolan produced Man of Steel.
Yeah, I know. I think the initial plan was they were going to connect them, but then Christopher Nolan was like, nah. Wise move.
Very wise move.
Also, Rachel, I mentioned to you as we were watching, I think is an original character to this trilogy. I don't think Rachel exists in the comics, or didn't exist prior to this film coming out.
Yes.
She might have appeared in the comics since, like, you know, kind of like how Harley Quinn appeared in the animated series and then moved to comics.
Yeah.
I wonder if maybe that was the case.
Possibly.
But to be honest, I don't find it that interesting.
See, I disagree. I think the character is interesting. The casting choice of Katie Holmes, I thought was odd.
See, I don't really know much about her. I don't think she was a great cast.
No.
As you mentioned, Maggie Gyllenhaal
In The Dark Knight.
The Dark Knight,
who I thought was much better.
Yeah, much better. But I think Rachel does contribute thematically. I'm not in love with her character, but I like what she does for the themes and kind of the things she points out to Bruce along the way.
Yeah.
But we'll get to those as we go through.
Yes. So he snatches the trident-shaped rock from Rachel, and he's running, and he's hiding. But as he's hiding, the floor underneath him breaks.
And he dies, and that's the end.
Yeah, short movie. Dun 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 dun. No, he falls through. Is it a well?
Quick, Lassie! Bruce has fallen down the well.
The weirdest crossover.
Batman and Lassie. Well, there's a bat hound in the comics.
That is true.
That appeared quite frequently in Crypto the Superdog, if you ever watched that growing up. Great show.
Yeah. So he falls through the well. Rachel goes to get help, and he is hearing a strange noise, and then there's an army of bats that are surrounding him, and he's terrified and he's screaming, and then all of a sudden the adult version of Bruce Wayne wakes up, and it was a dream. And we see the adult Bruce Wayne, played by Christian Bale, and he's locked up. He's a prisoner.
He is. I like this start. I like that, like, we kind of jump in the middle of the action. We don't necessarily follow the origin chronologically until Bruce returns to Gotham.
Yes.
Which I like a lot.
Thoughts on Christian Bale as Bruce Wayne / Batman?
Okay. My sort of criteria for a Batman casting is not... It's can you play Batman, but can you also play Bruce Wayne?
Yes.
And then can you also sort of play Bruce Wayne playing dumb?
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Like, there's a scene in a restaurant where Bruce is sat at a table in the film, and they're like, "Oh, what do you think of this Bat character?" And he's like, you know, well, some guy who dresses as a bat clearly has issues or whatever.
Yeah.
I like that. And so you need to be able to play both sides of that coin. And I do think that Bale really, really walks the line with that. Like, it's a nice little balance.
Yeah.
He's one of the very few actors in history, I think, that has managed to get that right. There are certain aspects that I'm not so keen on. Mm-hmm. But overall, I think the performance is really, really solid.
Yeah.
Kevin Conroy, to me, will forever be Batman. Always and forever.
Yeah.
And no one will ever top him.
No, yeah. Conroy was really solid.
Yeah. But I do think Bale would probably be top 3, you know?
Yeah. I agree. I overall, I do like Bale's portrayal of the character. I'm the same as you. There's maybe one or two things I thought didn't really work. One of those things being the Bat voice.
Yeah. It has become really iconic, as you pointed out when we were watching.
Yeah.
But that still doesn't negate how bonkers it is.
That is a really good way of putting it.
Because no other superhero has done it either, right? Like, imagine if you're watching, I don't know, I need to try and think of something like, I don't know, like Arrow on the CW show. And mind you, actually, they kind of copied the Bat voice, because when he's Green Arrow, he's a bit gruffer. So maybe that's a poor example. Maybe...
Well, we've never seen, in other mediums, we've never seen a hero do that voice, so like Superman, or... Could you imagine Wonder Woman doing that? Who are you? I'm Wonder Woman. But I suppose, I don't know, I think another interesting way of putting it would be we haven't seen another actor who's played Batman do that voice.
I think it's born of Nolan's creative process, because he likes doing things practically, and he's not... I mean, obviously he uses CG and things like that, but if you can do something on set at the time, he'll do that, right? And I respect that immensely. I do respect that. But
was it Nolan's decision to have Bale do the voice?
I don't know. I think maybe it was a mutual decision.
Because there are audition... if you watch the behind the scenes... They show some of the audition tapes from some of the other actors. One of them, by the way, was Cillian Murphy.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Yeah. In an alternate universe, he could have been Batman.
Yeah. I don't know who the other actor is, but when they auditioned, Cillian Murphy had a slight gruffle in his voice. The other actor didn't at all. He just spoke his normal voice. And it wasn't until Bale comes in that he really adds that gruffle. I don't know if it was Bale's decision.
Potentially. I think it was born of, like when Kevin Conroy voices the character, obviously it's animated. I'm thinking more Arkham game.
Yeah.
Right? Which, funnily enough, was made off the back of the success of these films, I think.
Really?
Yeah. So originally they were supposed to be making a tie-in game, and then the studio were like, nah, give us some more time and we'll make something better. And they made Arkham Asylum. I think that is the case.
Because Arkham Asylum came out the same year as The Dark Knight.
Maybe, I think, it was supposed to be the tie-in game for The Dark Knight, and then they just made something different. I think. I can't quite remember the optics on that one. So in that game series, right, when Batman is in the Batsuit and he's Batman, and he's like talking on his communicator, there's a clear kind of like voice modulation element built into the cowl, where it changes his voice slightly so you wouldn't recognize him as Bruce. So I wonder if that was something they were trying to emulate from like other media, like other like cartoons and interpretations. Maybe that was a thing they were trying to emulate, but by trying to do it practically, the only way you can do that is by doing the voice.
Yeah, possibly. But then in the Nolan Batman universe, everything is done within a realistic manner.
Yeah.
So I suppose maybe, but Nolan and Bale thought to themselves, right, well, if we want this universe to be more realistic, you're going to be in the Batsuit, and if you just use your normal voice, people are going to tell it's you.
Yeah.
They're going to be like, oh, it's Bruce Wayne. And so maybe they didn't have the technology for Bruce to put in the voice modulator, and so we just like, oh, I'll just put on the dark voice.
Yeah. And to be fair, I could see that leap of logic.
Yeah.
Like, if I just lower my voice a bit.
But there are moments where it is quite silly.
Yeah.
It's
a mercy that he doesn't talk a lot.
Yeah. There's the great moment in The Dark Knight Rises where he has his big final confrontation with Bane, and he kicks him, and he's like got him on the floor, and he goes, "Where's the chicken? You ain't going to do this. Where is it?" It's so...
It's killing you.
The voice is killing me. That's really hurt my throat. Yeah, it's really silly, really overdone. Thankfully, that doesn't happen in this. The voice, I suppose, it's a bit more tamed.
Yeah.
But there's still moments where it's a bit silly.
Yeah. But I think that's what makes it. That's why it was so iconic, because people were like, that's silly. It got memed. It became a really popular thing to imitate, and now it's just really iconic.
Because now whenever people talk about Batman or reference Batman, they always put the voice on.
Yeah.
I'm Batman.
Yeah. And, I think maybe for more general audiences, that's probably the more recognizable voice compared to Conroy. Which is wrong. No. You can prefer whatever you want to prefer. Just...
For I am vengeance. I am the night. I am Batman.
Is that your interpretation? Because it sounds like you're a game show host.
I'm sorry. That was my poor attempt at impersonating Kevin Conroy. I am so sorry, sir. Rest in peace. We really do miss you.
Sounds like you're hosting Catchphrase.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Who's in That Cell? In this episode, we have the Joker, Scarecrow, the Riddler, and Harley Quinn. I am your host, Batman.
That's a good story idea for like a game show host villain. Anyway.
So he wakes up in the cell. He's a prisoner. Whereabouts is he?
I don't know.
I don't think it's...
I think so. Ra's al Ghul, I think his origins come from I think he's like Arabic. I think,
Which is interesting.
but the idea is he's got the Lazarus Pit and he's really ancient, and so he's sort of a bit of a nomad with no real roots because he's adopted things from loads of different cultures.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, it'll be somewhere in Asia, they'll generally say.
That it's very interesting that you brought that up. So after he leaves his cell and he's in a queue getting food, and he ends up having a big fight with some of the other prisoners.
Yeah, which is, again, it's a really good scene. And
It's great.
I will point out, for every action scene, there is it might be used sparingly, but there's very little use of shaky cam, so you can see the action and you can see what's happening.
Yeah, see, and it was great. So you mentioned that, and it's a great point, and I do agree. What was it? The Nostalgia Critic, he did a review for Batman Begins.
Oh.
And he was commenting, see, I could be getting this wrong, but I believe he was saying something along the lines of, he thought there was a lot of shaky cam, and that you couldn't see what was going on.
If you compare it to some of the stuff that comes out now,
Yeah.
I think it's pretty good.
And I will have to say, so while I... See, I agree, but I disagree at the same time.
Okay.
About the shaky cam. But I disagree that you can't see what's going on. You can clearly see what's going on. And I think the reason why the camera looks like it's being all shoddy and quick, especially in the moments where Batman is fighting the criminals, is because he's in the shadows.
Yeah, so it's more of a lighting issue.
I think
a problem.
I think that was a deliberate creative decision.
Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, I agree with what he says about the shaky cam and whatnot, but I disagree with the point that you can't see what's going on.
Yeah.
Because I think just me personally, I think he can.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, he has this fight with the other prisoners.
Protection for them.
Yes, he gets dragged away by the guards, and he gets locked into another cell, and that is when we get our introduction to Ra's al Ghul.
Yeah. Some very economic storytelling, because this happens like 3 minutes in. It's great.
Oh, yeah. You're literally only a few minutes in the film, and so much has happened. And it's not the case of where so much is happening you can't keep up with it.
Yeah, it's not overwhelming or a breakneck pace. It's just steady. Like, and then this thing, and then this thing, and then this thing.
It is perfectly paced. The tone is great.
That opening 10 minutes really establishes this is how we're going to be moving through this. You know? And I respect that. It's so good.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're introduced to Ra's al Ghul, who is played by Liam Neeson. Now, going with what you were saying earlier about the character in the comics is of Arabic origin.
Yeah.
Liam Neeson is white and Irish. So, and I believe some people weren't very happy with the casting choice when the film first came out. Personally, I liked Neeson.
Yeah.
I thought his portrayal was good. Obviously, I know in terms of his ethnicity and whatnot, it is not comic book accurate. But I mean, most comic book movies nowadays, they're not 100% comic book accurate.
No, the big problem is the whole whitewashing concept, which happens a lot. It's rampant. I don't agree with it. But I think with casting Liam Neeson, they were probably leaning on the idea that, and you mentioned something interesting that we'll circle back to in a moment, that Ra's al Ghul is somewhat timeless. He's lived, in the comics at least, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, experienced numerous cultures, travelled the world multiple times over. So I feel like if you've got a character like that, nailing down like hard origins and, roots is not as significant comparatively to the performance the actor's going to give.
Yeah.
Right? Like you could liken it to you remember the Ancient One in Doctor Strange? That was then played by Tilda Swinton.
Yeah.
That is more outrageous than this, I feel. Because the Ancient One is, old, but not quite as old as Ra's al Ghul, I believe.
Yeah.
And does have some hard, this is where this character is from, because they still live there.
And correct me if I'm wrong, is the Ancient One in the comics male?
Yes, and I believe Tibetan or something like that. I can't quite remember off the dome.
Okay.
But yeah, there's some real, there's hard origins there.
Yeah.
That's a bit shakier.
Yes.
Boo Marvel.
I mean, I wouldn't say boo Marvel,
No.
because I still thought Tilda Swinton did a good job, but that sort of just adds to the point that despite the fact, I mean, Commissioner Gordon in the recent Batman movie is played by Jeffrey Wright, who is black.
Yeah, fantastic performance. Honestly, the performance given often will trump anything else.
Yeah,
and Liam Neeson does do the role justice.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it really doesn't matter too much. I mean, if you get an opportunity where you've got a good actor who fits the right kind of representation for a role,
yeah,
absolutely. Magneto, who is another Marvel character, but is infamously, in the comics, Jewish. And if you, Marvel, if you're listening for your new X-Men stuff coming out in the next 10 years, if you can get a really good Jewish actor to play that part, then yeah, because it's quite important to the character and the backstory and the history of that character.
But does the actor have to be Jewish?
No, it's a nice thing to have, but it's not necessary. Okay, let's say you've got a Jewish actor who's giving a really bad performance in an audition, and then you've got another actor who isn't Jewish who's giving a good performance.
Yes.
Who's getting that role?
The actor who's not Jewish.
Exactly. So it's a nice thing to have, but it's not a necessity. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. Because I suppose it's the same thing where I really hate that people say this, where an actor who is gay can only play gay characters.
Absolutely not.
Which is
Neil Patrick Harris has built a career on playing straight holes.
Yeah. I recently binge-watched the series Monsters, the Lyle and Eric Menendez story.
Yes.
And Nathan Lane, who is one of my all-time favourite actors.
Nathan Lane's in it?
He is. I've forgotten the name of the man he plays, but I believe he plays a lawyer, and he is the father of an actress who was very sadly murdered by her ex-boyfriend. Mm-hmm. Now, the man who Nathan Lane plays in the show is straight because he has a daughter. He had a marriage with a woman, and it is very public knowledge that Nathan Lane, the actor, is gay. And I thought Nathan Lane was absolutely fantastic.
It's Nathan Lane, of course he was.
He smashed it out of the park. He was incredible. Luke Evans, who is a gay actor,
who played Gaston.
Yes.
Yeah.
So not only
Gaston.
not only did he play Gaston in the dreadful live-action remake of Beauty and the Beast, but he also played... Oh, my memory is so bad. He also played a straight man in an ITV series, which I also believe was based on a true story.
Called
such and such. And again, he smashed it. So, and there have been many straight actors who have played gay characters. So,
yeah.
To the people who make this stupid argument that gay characters can only be played by gay actors and straight characters can only be played by straight actors, that is absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah. But the thing is, I say, it can enhance a performance, is my point.
Yeah.
Take, say, Ncuti Gatwa in Sex Education.
Yes.
Who plays, I forget the character's name now.
I've never seen the show.
You are missing out, my friend.
I'm so sorry, I've never seen it.
His performance is great, and he plays a character who, is sort of balancing his religious roots and his sexuality, and it very much seems like Ncuti Gatwa has lived not necessarily the same experience, but a very similar experience, and so it brings a truth to the performance that is so visceral.
Yes,
I see what
you're saying.
Yeah.
I completely agree.
Yeah. But then trying to do that for Ra's al Ghul is practically impossible. Ancient multiple 100-year-old nomad who's experienced every culture. Yeah, we'll find someone on planet Earth that's experienced that.
Yeah, so I think Nolan was just kind of the first actor who we think is just good for the role,
Yeah.
we'll just give it to them.
Maybe not the first, but
Oh, you get rid of it.
yeah, I think Nolan would be if he did that. And Nolan is a very considerate and careful person.
Yes.
His films are a craft. It's an art, and he's very meticulous. That shows through on so many things in his writing, his cinematography. Like, it all is very, very carefully thought out. And so I don't think he would have cast Liam Neeson in this role lightly. I think he would have considered all the factors and then gone, yeah, this is the direction we're going.
Yeah.
And as a film director, sometimes that's what you got to do. And I do think that Liam Neeson does give a good performance.
Yes, he is very good.
But you can kind of get around the whole sort of origins, ethnicity issue with a very interesting notion that you mentioned about titles.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's not, Ra's al Ghul isn't a person, it's an
idea.
An idea, yeah. And so there's a leader of the League of Shadows, Ra's al Ghul. That person dies and passes it on to a successor, and so on and so forth. So Liam Neeson's character is Ra's al Ghul, but that's not their actual original name.
Yeah.
Which I think is cool. There's a theory about Bond doing that. I don't know if you've read about this, the Bond theory, that it's all the same continuation, and the change in actors is just a different agent that gets the same code name.
Oh,
yeah, really interesting. But that'll be a topic for another episode, I imagine.
Yeah, probably. So the theory of Ra's. See, I keep saying Ra's.
Ra's, it literally doesn't matter.
There's different pronunciations.
If you want to be like, actually, it's Ra's. Shut up. The H is not silent. Yeah. If you understand who we're referring to, then you do not need to get nitpicky.
No.
Shut up.
So, yeah, the theory of in this universe, Ra's al Ghul being an idea, it fits perfectly in this Nolan universe of trying to maintain that sense of realism.
Yeah, because having a immortal character just wouldn't work.
No. Yeah, but having someone be Ra's al Ghul, if they were to die and then it gets passed on to another person, it's giving that idea of keeping the name alive,
so it's
keeping the name immortal.
So it's like legacy.
Yeah.
Which is something that is talked about in this film a lot, because, when Bruce starts walking a bad path in various ways at any point, the people around him are very quick to be like, your father would not approve of this.
Yeah.
Your father, your father, your father. So maybe it is the legacy angle, and maybe it's just not that well communicated compared to some of the other themes in the film. Maybe.
Yeah.
That's an interesting idea. I kind of like that.
Yeah.
I hope that was the intention, because that adds another layer that I didn't even think about until just this moment.
Yeah. So Ra's al Ghul introduces himself to Bruce.
Hello there, sir. I'm Ra's al Ghul.
That's not what he says. Do you imagine?
Fiddle-dee-dee, I'm Ra's al Ghul.
That was Liam Neeson's audition tape. Fiddle-dee-dee! I'm Ra's al Ghul! Nolan's just sat there, trying his hardest not to die inside.
The part is yours.
Liam, that was good, but could you please be better? I am Ra's al Ghul. No, Liam, that's not... Stop stealing from Christian.
Speaking of the themes, Raz establishes them like really early on with like this line about committing to an ideal, and like he's like, you can see in Bruce that he's afraid.
Yep.
Like, but we're 3 minutes in. How long have we been talking about this?
For nearly 40 minutes.
3 minutes.
There might be more than 2 parts here.
I'd be willing to bet there might be.
Yeah,
but that's okay.
I'm happy for there to be more than 2 parts, because this is a film worth talking about.
Yeah, it's definitely better than the last one we did.
Oh god, yeah. So yeah, Raz is talking about devoting oneself to an ideal, becoming more than just a man, becoming a legend.
I'm already a legend, so I wouldn't know.
Well, that is true.
Oh.
And so he tells Bruce to, to venture through these mountains.
Yeah,
to find this flower. And that's where he will find what he's been looking for. To which Bruce asks him, what was I looking for? Only you can know that.
Yeah.
It's great dialogue. It's such a good script.
The dialogue in this is just phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah.
Did I say that? Phenomenal.
Phenomenal. Phenomenal.
Sorry, it's a word that I do sometimes trip over. So if I say it wrong, shut up.
And so Bruce does venture through these mountains, and he does find the flower.
The mountains and all the kind of the sequences that follow, like in the mountains, must have been a pain in the to shoot.
Must have been great though when they looked back at the footage.
Yeah, and seen some of the things that they've done. Oh my gosh!
What Wally Pfister was,
which sounds like a fake name.
I'm sure it's his real name, but I agree with Todd. It does sound like what you call it?
Hello there, I'm Wally Pfister.
I'm your DP for this production.
Why did I make him sound like that?
I know we're making fun, but the cinematography in this is incredible.
Your work is phenomenal, sir.
It is beautiful. Such a well shot film. And yeah, he finds the flower, and he finds the location of the League of Shadows.
Yeah. Do we think that's a real place?
What, as in our real world?
No, yeah, like it's an actual location you can go to. Like, did they film somewhere real? Or
I see. I thought you meant, are the League of Shadows real?
Are they listening to us right now? Yeah, the actual location.
Joe and I are going to travel. We're going to find the League of Shadows, and we are going to train.
I remember watching it and thinking, that building is really cool. Like, it's a big, huge mansion thing in the mountains somewhere.
Possibly? I don't know.
But they wouldn't construct something like that just for this film. Surely not.
I mean, you never know. They might have done.
Yeah. Part of me wonders if maybe...
Christopher Nolan ventured through the mountains, found a flower, and found the location.
That's why the scouting took so long. Part of me wonders if it might be a model. Like they've done like a model of the mountain with the house, and then sort of superimposed Christian Bale walking up the steps, because then it cuts to just kind of the door frame. Yeah, which could just be a set.
Yeah,
I don't know, but yeah, I did wonder if it was real. It'd be cool to go to, maybe.
So he goes into this. I don't want to call it a building because it's not a building.
No,
but he goes into.
But it's my brain was leaning towards like hut, but it's not. It's too big to be a hut.
He goes into the location.
The location
of the League of Shadows. He sees this Japanese man sitting in what looks like a throne, to which Bruce believes that this man is Ra's al Ghul. Mm-hmm. That's right. Yeah. So we got this wrong. When Liam Neeson introduces himself, he gives himself another name, and he says he represents Ra's al Ghul.
Yes.
And he is approached by the League of Shadows, the ninjas. Ninja. And Liam Neeson says to him, "Are you ready to begin?" But Bruce, he's been venturing through the cold. He's been venturing through the mountains. He's freezing. He's tired.
He wants some soup and a kip.
Yes. He says, I can barely stand. To which Ra's al Ghul says, "Death does not wait," and kicks him in the balls.
Does he actually kick
him
in the balls?
I think he kicks him in the stomach.
That'd be really funny if he did.
But I was saying... But I was saying, as we were rewatching it, that I like to think this was like a point in the script where this was like a big action beat. So like they normally say when it comes to screenwriting that something pretty significant has to happen every few pages. And so Bruce coming into the lair of the League of Shadows, it's all very quiet. There's a lot of build-up accompanied with Hans Zimmer and James Newton Howard's score. I'm going to talk more on that in a minute. It's so good. It's all very quiet. And as soon as Ra's al Ghul, or Liam Neeson, kicks Bruce Wayne, the noise of the impact is big. Ra's al Ghul, Liam Neeson, raises his voice.
We're just going to call him Liam Neeson.
Yeah. And the music gets faster. Mm-hmm. It gets higher. So I like to think that this was like a point in the script where this was like the first really big action beat that like sort of kicks off the action and the thrill, and then Liam Neeson ends up kicking the out of Bruce Wayne.
I do like this moment because he's like naming like fighting styles like jujitsu.
Oh, yeah.
Like as he's fighting, which is something I hate in like film and TV. Like when have you ever seen? I'm trying to think of an example now. It's like, did you ever play like Super Smash Bros. And play as Falcon, and you get the Falcon punch as he punches, and there's like things like that in film and TV. You must know of some examples. You may know what I mean.
Yes.
I hate that. Like, imagine if you just went through life doing that, like walking, just naming your actions as you're doing them.
Just say, for anyone who hasn't seen it, in the actual film, one of the fighting stances that Liam Neeson says is like tiger and stuff like that.
Panther.
So it's just picturing him going jiu-jitsu, taekwondo, karate.
That would have been better. They should redo the film, but just change that bit and just re-release it. What do you say?
To which Liam Neeson headbutts Bruce and goes, headbutt! No, it doesn't say that. And then we go back to Bruce's childhood.
Flashback. The flashback. Oh my god, that'd been amazing. The flashbacks, do you think that they interrupt the pacing or enhance it?
I think it was great.
I think they crop up at the right times. They usually come after a big moment like this one, like you were saying, to sort of bring tension back down.
Yep.
So it can start to escalate again. They pop up at the right times.
But there are other action beats within the flashbacks.
Yes.
Because, within these first 10 to 15 minutes of the film, if you're somebody who's never seen a Batman film, if you've never read the Batman comics, and you're watching this with a complete fresh pair of eyes, you're going to be sat there thinking, oh my god, like, who is this man? Why is he doing what he's doing? I want to learn more about him. And so when it goes into the flashbacks and we venture through his childhood, it's such an amazing way to fully explain this character's backstory. And so by the time it comes back to the present, you're fully caught up. You're like, right, I know why he's doing this. I know why he's here. I know what he wants.
It's a very thorough origin story.
Yeah.
Isn't it? And probably why it's the most successful one put to screen.
Is it? I thought The Dark Knight was the most successful one.
I mean, origin story.
Oh, origin, right. So, yeah. Which I was going to say, this will probably be an unpopular opinion, but Batman Begins is my personal favourite of the Nolan trilogy. I love The Dark Knight. I love it, and I completely understand why that is most people's go-to favourite of the three. But, as you were saying, I think the reason why this is my personal favourite is because it is such a solid origin story.
Yeah, personally, kind of going into this, my favourite would have been The Dark Knight. How novel. But I think maybe having watched the film with the intention of analysing it, that might change. I feel like I now appreciate this one more. Because as I mentioned when we were talking before recording, The Dark Knight could not be as good as it is without the solid foundation that Begins gave it.
Yes.
To springboard from.
Yeah.
Without Begins, you don't have Night. So, I don't know, maybe my opinion will change by the end of this. Who's to say? But I do think I appreciate it a lot more than I did.
Yeah.
Young Bruce, what do you think of his acting?
I thought he was good.
I enjoy his performance as well. I remember sort of watching this, or starting to, with the intention of reviewing it, and seeing that first flashback, like at the very, very, very beginning, the Finders Keepers moment, and thinking, oh my god, now that I'm like really analysing this, I'm going to hate this kid's performance now. And I was quite concerned that I was going to turn and be like, nah, I don't like the performance. But I honestly think it's enhanced my experience of it, because those moments that he shares with Thomas Wayne seem more wholesome, more warm. You get more, the whole building on the father-son dynamic is so good. And then that goes on to kind of inform Bruce's grief, because we actually see him having a closeness with his parents.
Yeah.
In a lot of other interpretations, you get the death of Thomas and Martha, but you don't see anything beforehand of how much Bruce loved his parents. You don't get those scenes.
There must be some comics that sort of venture into his childhood.
Yeah, there are. But generally speaking, they want to get to the Batman stuff and quickly, so they kind of skip over that and say, oh, and Thomas and Martha are dead, and it's Batman now.
Yeah.
So you don't get this setup of seeing their relationships just as like slice of life. Like the scene that springs to mind is, might be jumping ahead a little bit, when Bruce has been rescued from, when he fell, and he's in bed, and Thomas is checking up on him, and he shows the pearls, and they're just having a little moment, and I think it's like tickling him or something in bed, and there's like it's just a really heartfelt moment between like a father and son.
Yeah,
that's such a rarity, and I think it makes it so much more impactful, the deaths of Thomas and Martha, and then the grief that follows for Bruce.
Yes,
because we see these moments.
Yes, absolutely, and
there's only one or two. There's not a lot, but it gives us enough sense to know. Okay, this is a close family.
Yeah, we don't need a lot. Just as you were saying, those few scenes explain it perfectly. And I thought the actor who played the young Bruce Wayne was very good. I don't think he overdid it. His expressions were good. His delivery, his dialogue was very good.
It felt very genuine.
Yeah.
I wonder if Nolan allowed the actor who played Thomas and young Bruce some time to
together,
get to know each other before shooting.
Have a bit of a bond.
Yeah, because they seem to have a very, very good rapport as well.
Yes. The chemistry was very good.
Yes.
His father helps him out and walks him to the mansion and says something to Bruce that later in the film becomes very poignant.
Yes.
And that is, why do we fall? So that we can learn to pick ourselves up.
Yeah. I'd argue it's gravity. That's why we fall. Poor balance and gravity.
That's probably why Bruce decided to get the Bat Cape, so that he could defy gravity and fly through the streets of Gotham.
Singing the Wicked soundtrack.
So if you can't find me... I'm not going to sing anymore in case we get a copyright strike.
Singing it in the Batman voice, I don't think they'd be able to hear enough with any clarity to know what you were singing.
He sings the final note.
Oh, I bet that's going to be lovely on the ears in the edit. Because the thing is, we'll forget about it. And then all of a sudden, it'll be there.
Within this flashback, we get our first introduction to Alfred, played beautifully by Sir Michael Caine.
Fantastic. He's the first of, I'd say, his genius casting. I would have never have thought before this that he would be Alfred or a good fit for Alfred.
Really?
But just immediately seeing him on screen and his first line delivery, you're like, oh, that's Alfred.
Yeah.
They don't even need. I don't even think they say who it is. Like when they introduce characters, sometimes in films, like, oh, and this is so and so.
Yeah.
This is Mary. This is Stuart. But like, do you know what I mean? Like a character will say a character's name.
Yeah.
So we're like, oh, so that's that person. They don't say Alfred. Not until I think the next scene that he's in. But immediately, like, that's Alfred.
Yes, 100%.
Very inspired casting. Genius. There's many more.
Oh, God, yeah. Cillian Murphy as Jonathan Crane, a.k.a. The Scarecrow.
Yes. Scarecrow.
I've forgotten the name of the actor who plays Falcone.
I actually don't know his name, I don't think.
He's a good actor. Well, he was a good actor.
Shall we Google?
Google is our friend.
Google is your friend. Or is it? It's a big corporation. They might not be.
So... So yeah, there are quite a few very, very sweet moments between Bruce and his dad. Not his mum, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah.
Is that because in the comics it's explained that his mum wasn't mentally well?
It's for certain stories and other... I don't know, it depends on your interpretation. It depends on what comics you're reading.
Yeah.
Before we go any further, I'm probably going to mention the comics a few times. I am not an expert by any means.
No, neither of us are.
I have not read nearly enough to consider myself well-versed. I've just read, the sort of obvious ones. I've read Year One, Halloween.
You are way more well-versed than I am.
I quite like the Legend of the Dark Knight stories, Shaman, Prey, those kind of things. It stems from a personal project where I did a lot of research. And so I sort of cherry-picked certain comics to read. I don't know everything, and I might get some things wrong, but,
Yeah. Tom Wilkinson played Carmine Falcone in this.
What else has he been in? Let's find out. I'm interested.
I'll let you search for that. So, yeah, and then Thomas Wayne, Martha, and Bruce go to the opera.
Yeah, the Full Monty. That's what he's in. That's what I remember him from.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. The opera.
The opera, to which the dancers look like bats. Is the opera about bats?
I'd assume so.
Yeah, because they look like bats. To which Bruce is having a bit of an episode. He's remembering the bats from the well.
Yeah.
He's getting...
Bats in the well?
he's becoming increasingly frightened. And he looks to his dad and he says, "Can we go?" And what I really loved, this was another very sweet moment between the two characters, because Thomas Wayne doesn't look at his son and go, "Oh, you'll be fine. Just sit and watch the show." Bruce says to him, "Can we go, please?" And Thomas can very clearly see that he is afraid. Mm-hmm. And he just says, "Okay."
Yeah.
And they leave around the back and he blames it on himself. He says, "I just needed to get some air. I wasn't feeling great."
Yeah.
And to which, the actor who plays Thomas Wayne in this was very good, because if you notice, after he says that, he notices Joe.
Yes.
After he sort of blaming it on himself, he's like, "Yeah, I just needed to get some air." His eyes venture and he sees Joe. What's Joe's surname?
Chill.
Joe Chill. And he very calmly says, "Come on, let's go." And they're just walking, minding their own business. And then Joe Chill approaches them, points a gun at them, and is demanding for wallet and jewellery.
Yeah. I love this interpretation
Yeah.
of how this goes down. I mentioned to you because of how calm Thomas is.
Yes.
Typically speaking, it's sort of a over in a flash moment. It happens very, very quickly.
Yeah.
But this, it draws it out, and again, it lets the tension build. As you know, you mentioned before, it's building to a big moment, and it's the way it's like Thomas is like, it's fine. Just take it easy. It's fine. I think that delivered really, really well.
Oh, God,
a great line of dialogue to begin with. But then also the sort of reaction you get from young Bruce and Martha as well to this very, very, very tense, very, very scary situation. And Thomas is really calm, commanding. The only reason the gun gets fired is because Joe moves it slightly towards Martha and Thomas steps in the way. Joe kind of interprets that as a move to
he sees it as a threat, yeah.
And then that's when the gun gets fired. So Thomas's intention in this moment is just protection.
Yeah,
as you mentioned.
Yes.
And I think this is what makes this particular iteration so powerful. As you can see, from the moment they step out of the theatre, all he is thinking about is his family.
Yeah.
You said that to me. And do you know what? I never looked at it that way, but you are so right.
Because he realises his son is very clearly scared, and so he's like, "Yeah, I'm not gonna force you to stay here and go through this fear. I'm gonna make sure that you're not scared. So I'm gonna take you out." Sees this gun from Joe Chill. The only thing on his mind is keeping his wife and son safe.
Yeah.
And then unfortunately he gets shot, and then he's trying to get the jewellery from Martha, and I think she retaliates. To which then she gets shot. And another beautiful thing in this scene, there's no music.
No.
It's just, you hear the ambience from the street. You can hear like cars in the background.
That gunfire really gets you. You know it's coming, but that gunfire...
It really does hit. You can hear like the train in the background as it's like scraping on the track.
Yeah.
And then those gunshots happen and Joe runs off and Bruce is he's just there on his knees. He doesn't know what to do.
Yeah.
He doesn't know how to react.
Quite an iconic thing from the comics. I think I have I have Ben's copy of Year One here. It's like a rip from here. I'm going to see if I can find the page. There it is.
Oh yeah, the image of Bruce, young Bruce on his knees between his dead parents.
Yeah.
It's a haunting image.
For reference, we are looking at, I think this one was published in 2005, the collection of the whole run, Year One run, and it's one of the sort of title pages of Bruce knelt there.
This is one of the very few comics that I have read. It is absolutely fantastic. If you've never read it, and if you're interested in reading comics, highly recommend.
If you just like Batman, like this is where you start.
Yeah. Oh my God.
This is your starting point. There'll be multiple instances where I'm probably going to reference Year One.
Yes.
It is so very... Nolan even said that Year One was a big influence on him.
Yes, yeah.
But he's put his own spin on it, and it's not totally like, it's not a carbon copy by any means, but like the structure of it is there.
Yes.
It acts as like a framework for this, and I imagine how he wrote his script. Just great. But that shot at the end of the scene where it's panning back out, and Bruce is between his dead parents.
Yeah.
He's crying, but he's quite quiet. He's crying quietly.
And I think that is because he's in shock.
Yeah.
So he's crying because he knows something really bad has happened.
Yeah.
But it's like...
He's still, because he doesn't know what to do.
Yeah, it's like he doesn't know what to do. He doesn't know what to say. He doesn't know exactly how he should be reacting. He's just frozen. Mm-hmm. To which he looks down at his dad, because his dad is saying, Bruce, Bruce. And his dad very quietly says, don't be afraid.
Yeah. Afraid? Again,
yeah.
It's almost like it's going to be really important to this film.
And Thomas Wayne slowly dies. And Bruce sort of looks up. He feels lost. He just doesn't know what to do. And then, as you said, there's that beautiful shot panning back. And we just see Bruce between his dead parents in this alleyway. And the score comes in. There's this woman's voice. And you just faintly hear it in the background. And it is so chilling because it's like, my God, this poor boy has just witnessed his parents, the two people who he is supposed to are supposed to make him feel safe. The two people he is supposed to trust more than anyone else on the planet are gone.
Yeah. It's so bleak, and you feel for him.
And so as soon as that moment ends and it moves on to the other scenes in the movie, you immediately get it.
Yeah, you understand Bruce's pain, his trauma, his drive.
Yeah.
What's pushing him forward. And that is what this is all about, isn't it? It's understanding what pushes this character forward. That
Absolutely.
is the entire point of Batman Begins.
Yes.
The entire point.
And I think we'll leave it there.
Yeah. I have a feeling there's going to be a part 3 of this.
I have a very high feeling there's going to be a part 3 to this, and I am perfectly okay with that.
Yeah, I really love this film.
Yes.
I think we've probably discussed maybe about 25 minutes of
this like
film.
2.5 hour film.
Yeah. Wow. We're going to have to be chugging.
Yes. Okay.
Hope you like Batman, because you've got a whole lot more coming.
Yeah. So join us next week for part 2. We hope to see you there.
Goodbye.
Rachel! Guys, thank you so much for listening to today's episode. If you liked it, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel.
You can follow us on Instagram at Ben and Joel Reviews.
And we will see you next week.
Take care.
Take care, my loves.